Everybody, it's great to be back here again on Itamar. It's Friday, Erev Shabbat. It's Parashat Chayay Sarah. It's called Shabbat Chevron. It's a custom of people going to spend the Shabbat in the Chevron area to visit, to pray in the tomb of the patriarchs, because of course this week's portion deals with that. It's really a great experience. I did it in the past. It was fantastic. I recommend you all do it. People come from the States. They come from all over the place to be here for this wonderful Shabbat. Let's talk about the Parashah. The portion opens up with Sarah Abraham, matriarch, passing away. And very, very, very interesting is that it says Vayavo Abraham, and Abraham came to eulogize and cry for his wife. And the question is, why did Abraham come for? Where was Abraham before him? And our rabbis teach us that this person's legs lead him to where he has to be. Which means that in this world, of course, we're always led to different things, and God, by divine providence, draws us into this and draws us into that. But not only during this world, but even when we have to leave this world, God leads us to the exact place where we have to leave this world. And although Abraham and Sarah lived in the Beersheba area, and the Hebron is in the mountains, Sarah was sort of led, and she went to that area, to Hebron, and possibly to pray in the tomb of at that point, the tomb of the first man and woman. And in that area she passed away. And that's why Abraham had to come. Was like a surprise. And why was it a surprise? Was the fact that when she heard that her son was almost offered as an offering, she couldn't deal with that, and it just caused her to pass away. Our rabbis teach us something interesting about mourning itself, in that when Abraham comes, it says to mourn her and lifkota, and to cry for her. The Torah writes a small letter, and all the other letters are written the regular size, and here the kaf is written as a small letter kaf, and the question is why. And that comes to really to put a limit a little bit on what mourning is all about. Not to overcry. When someone, God forbid, passes away, and it's a terrible, terrible thing. I mean, just yesterday here in Itamar we had a memorial service for one of our residents that was blown up by a suicide bomber when he went and jumped on a terrorist, and he saved the life of many, many, many others. And yesterday was the 8th year memorial service. He was only 22 at the time. He would have been 30 years old. And it's a terrible, terrible thing, obviously. But in this week's portion teaches us that this world is a world that's passing. Obviously we're all going to somewhere else. We're going to a better world, the world to come. And Abraham was teaching us that, of course, he cried because we cry because we feel the loss, but the person goes to a higher place, and eventually there will be a revival of the dead. And this is what we call in Hebrew Tchiyat HaMetim, which is one of the principles of Judaism, fundamental principles of Judaism. But another question that we have to ask over here is Yitzchak, Sarah's son, is not mentioned. And that's a very big question, because a son is required by law to mourn for a parent for a year. And, God forbid we should know such things. But this is the laws of mourning, and where is he? So why isn't he included over here in the story of Sarah passing away? But in truth, he is included. Where? The Torah, after describes how Abraham purchased the tomb of the patriarchs, it then goes to teach us that Yitzchak, how Yitzchak gets a wife. Avram sends out Eliezer, a servant, to go to Mesopotamia and bring Rivka. And finally, after he brings Rivka into his mother's tent, and it says it's his mother's tent, which is also very interesting. And then finally it says he's now consoled for his mother's death, which means it took 3 years from the beginning until this point. It was 3 years where finally Yitzchak really felt consoled after his mother passed away. So he was mourning, and he's mourning for 3 years, even more than usual. And the question is again, what took so long to mention it, and why was this interruption? But on the deep side of things, our rabbis are trying to teach us a concept, and I'll try to explain it if I can. In Kabbalah, they talk about 3 sides. What are the 3 sides? When God, again, created this world, he created this world on a system, a very, very clear, powerful system of running this world. And this system is built on 3 sides. What are the 3 sides? One is called the right side, which represents chesed, kindness, abundance. The middle side, which is called splendor, tiferet. And the left side, which represents the side of judgment. And these 3 sides are the 3 sides of the Sfirot. So we spoke about the divine vessels where divine light radiates from above to below to this world. And chesed alone cannot work. The same way as judgment alone cannot work. Together they must combine and form one unity. When they unify themselves together, they're building a complete vessel for transferring the divine light to this world. And if we learn the Torah in this way, we'll always see how the portions of the week and the Torah builds itself up. We see how that there are always this whole system together. It's like a sort of spiritual existence is built all the time, containing these different parts to it. And Abraham, as we know, represents that first side, the side of chesed, the side of abundance, of proactiveness. Abraham is running around, he's fighting wars, he's rescuing his nephew. He's, again here, he's purchasing this table of the tomb of the patriarchs. He's leaving his father's land and coming to Israel. Everything about Abraham is activity. That's chesed. And Isaac, his son, seems to be the opposite, because he represents gvura. Gvura meaning restraint. Judgment is restraining, right? You're sort of focusing. You are putting a limit on something. You're making a law. You're limiting someone's freedom in a certain way, and that's what judgment is all about. Yitzchak represents gvura, to overcome. A person has to use tremendous strength to overcome the temptations of this world. A person gives into his different desires and etc. Then a person is going to fall into the evil side, and that's the power of Yitzchak to overcome. And that's why also we see on the Akedah, when he was offered up as an offering, he really didn't respond. He was sort of, again, passive. And these two sides, again, have to come to some kind of meeting point and combine. That is one of the reasons why Issac is not mentioned when it refers to his mother passing away. Why? Again, at this point, Yitzchak is not the leader. His father is still leading. His father is still the boss. And it's the chesed, the period now of chesed is being built. This kind of system, this kind of light of chesed that Hashem is bringing down is being strengthened and being formed at this point of time. And Abraham is doing all the work. Of course, Yitzchak is there. Only later on, after Yitzchak is now beginning to develop himself, as we see, first he gets his wife, and finally, after he becomes a full-fledged person, because a person is not married, he's only half a person, and now he is ready to acquire his independence. And then we see he's finally mentioned as, of course, reacting to his mother's situation. The Torah mentions his personal feelings, and we see, of course, how he got married was also done for him. So his whole existence really is a lot of sort of passive being, which represents the side of judgment. It's a very, very deep concept, and if you're used to it, but if you look throughout the Torah, we will see how each forefather represents a certain part of the spiritual sphero, the spiritual sides, and together it's building one unity. That's one side of looking at, of course, this portion. I'd like to end on a note of a different thing completely, about the acquisition of the land of Israel. We know that God gave the land of Israel to the Jewish people. It is so clear. It's written all over the Torah. And here Abraham goes out and he spends a tremendous amount of money to purchase the tomb of the patriarchs. And this, of course, we see today when the world is claiming, what are the Jewish people doing in Hebron, and they talk about Rachel Imenu, Kever Rachel, the tomb of Rachel. Always, and of course of Joseph's tomb. There's always fights going on in the world, arguments going on in the world, who this land belongs to. But if we look in the Torah so carefully, everywhere you look in the Torah, the land was given to Jewish people. But here, Hashem wanted to make sure that Abraham even purchased the tomb of the patriarchs to show everyone, listen, Hebron is a Jewish acquisition. Please leave it alone. Well, we need all of you to stand up for Israel, to stand up for the land of Israel, for the Jewish people. Because in the land of Israel, when the Jewish people are strong in the land and living in the land of Israel, the entire world will be blessed. This will bring blessing to the world. Well, it's been great to be back again. Have a great Shabbat. We miss you all. I'll see you next week. Shabbat Shalom. Bye.